Florida's governor, Ron DeSantis, has deployed 250 members of the Florida State Guard in preparation for Haitian migrants. Florida Congressman Cory Mills joins me now. Congressman, your team recently rescued 13 more Americans from the gang violence and anarchy in Haiti. You've criticized President Biden for abandoning, you say, U.S. citizens there. So the question is, how should we handle that situation in Haiti? How much should we be involved?
Well, I think that we can look at the clear pattern of behavior, actually. I mean, if you go back to Afghanistan in 2021, where thousands was left behind, if you go towards Israel, where it took me rescuing 255 Americans before the State Department took action and sent their first aircraft, or now, where we've done 2 successful rescues in the capital, which is controlled 80% by Jimmy Xavier, as well as for the G9, the Mencken Khan, and the other family gangs. Now they're starting to talk about planning. Last week, remember, just last week, Miller, the spokesman for the State Department, said we have no intent, no plans to rescue Americans. Now that the political pressure and the optics are not good for them, they want to start trying to send aircraft into Cap Haitien. So we have to shame this administration into doing their job, which is unfortunate. But if Biden's not willing to do his job, I'll step up and do it for him, as will the private citizens who actually define American exceptionalism.
It's amazing. Congressman, how bad is the situation on the ground there? We know the gangs are running the island right now for all intents and purposes. It's anarchy. Who's in control?
Well, it's absolute anarchy. You have Jimmy Xavier, who used to be a Haitian national police officer who was very close to the former president who was assassinated, who's essentially been filling these power gaps. The violence and the terroristic behaviors that has been just rampant throughout Haiti is getting worse and worse by the day. The deterioration of what's happening, the fact that they're cooking and burning people in the middle of the streets, that they're utilizing machetes to murder and leave bodies to try and utilize this as a way to terrorize people. The fact that they're starving out and stealing resources from orphanages, and just recently, even from one of the locations that had mental and physical disabled children, they were stealing the resources to starve them out. So this is the worst of the worst that you could see. And I think that we need to be looking at working with local partners in the Dominican Republic and other areas in the Latin and Caribbean area, so that we can try and put together a diplomatic international solution, because throwing money at the problem is not the solution. That's what America, that's what the Clinton Foundation claims that they had done, although I'd love to see where the investigation leads to the tens of billions of dollars that they claim has gone into there. Yeah. But we need to really get real solution to try and get the interim government in, because we know that the prime minister, who resides in Puerto Rico, has already resigned, which is going to create a bigger gap, and that's where the gangs are going to fill those gaps to terrorize further.
What a dreadful situation, but I'm going to move on for this subject, Congressman. A top U.S. admiral is warning that China will be ready for an invasion of Taiwan, he says, by 2027. You're on the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Is China preparing to invade Taiwan?
Well, and I'm also on the House Armed Services Committee, and I was fortunate enough to do a congressional delegation with Admiral Aquilino, the 7th Fleet, and the Indo-PACOM, going out to Guam, going out to the Philippines, going out to Okinawa and into Taiwan when I met with former President Tsai. And I can tell you that if you look at China's ramp up of their military strategy, we've not seen a military buildup of this escalation since America in World War II. So they're certainly looking at the China unification. You hear the dangerous rhetoric. We know that they're continuing to operate in a way that would be kind of a forecasting or a foreshadowing of how they would actually do a blockade or how they would actually launch their operations. But there is a finite window that is there, and they are still against, the strength of our trilateral and bilateral agreements, things like AUKUS, looking at our allies within the actual region, which is strengthening the sanctions that would be imposed against China, which would be damaging. But I think there's a lot of ways that we can deal with this that doesn't lead to kinetics, because at the end of the day, this is a economic resource and cyber-based warfare that China's launching. I think there is a non-kinetic and influence solution here that doesn't involve more continuation of kinetic battles.
One final topic for you, Congressman. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer rejecting Benjamin Netanyahu's request to speak to Senate Democrats. What do you make of that?
Well, it's not surprising. Look, you've got the left who are pandering further and further to the extremism of their party. You've got people who are literally Hamas sympathizers who are trying to force a sovereign nation. And I would ask Chuck Schumer this, since he is from the state of New York and he is of Jewish faith. Why is it and how is it would you have responded if after 9/11 we had another nation trying to tell us how we should actually carry out our operations in Afghanistan when we were going after those responsible for the attacks that took 2,700 lives? Go to October 7th and you've got Benjamin Netanyahu who's in the very same situation, who also deserves to be able to defend his citizens and to respond to the terrorist attack that cost 1,200 lives. So I think that it's shameful that Chuck Schumer continues to try and force a sovereign nation to do something that's against the people's will.
Very quickly, Speaker Johnson considering inviting Netanyahu to address the House. Is that something you would support?
I would absolutely support that, because we need to be looking at what not only Benjamin Netanyahu, but also his war cabinet with Benny Gantz has to say with how successful they are in eliminating the Iranian-backed terrorist organization of Hamas. And so I want to do one more thing, if I may, Ashley, a little bit off cuff. I want to bring in really quickly. Yesterday was my son's birthday, and so I wanted to get him on here to wish him a happy birthday today.
Happy, but what's your son's name?
My son, Noah. He's 9 years old.
Noah. Happy birthday, Noah, and welcome to Fox Business. Congressman and Noah, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.